And we're going to bring out a poet right now, ladies and gentlemen. She's a highly, highly organized, highly successful, highly, highly refined poet. I do believe she is heiress to the great cordial liquors fortune as well. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Jenny Kuypers.
I've had the most bizarre collection of 3 poems that I'm going to read for you. And I've included this first one because the last time I was here, I read the new series of poems that I'm doing on periodic table poetry, which is I'm writing poems for every element. And this one is actually combined with another poem of mine that people seem to really, really like. And this is, the element is Astatine, which is kind of really fun. But this is Astatine in a fantastic car crash combination of pieces. And our life is one big road trip now. And we set the cruise control and make our way down the expressway. And most of the time we're just moving in a straight line. The scenery blurs. There's nothing to see. But I know what's inside of you, and I know what you're made of. There's no such thing as a calm with you. You are a fantastic car crash. You stop traffic in both directions. And in your twisted way, you come from the decay of others. And what do you leave in your wake? More radioactive destruction as all around you slows down to stare. And neighbors gawk as the decay grows. Everything shatters with you. You know, it's a spectacular explosion until your instability corrodes you down to the basics in the world. And yeah, what was left of you after you were gone is much more stable than what you were, but still, I duck and cover as metal flies through the air. And every time you leave the scene of the accident, I love picking up the shards of glass from the windows. You know, the glass breaks into such tiny little pieces. They look like ice. It takes so long to pick up the pieces, and even though I'm careful, I'm still picking up the pieces after dealing with only fractional amounts of you. I've only been able to infer what you were like by knowing your brethren while I'm stuck here picking up the pieces, and I'm still on my knees. The glass cuts into my hands because it was only after so much of your destruction that you left behind blood dripping down the streets. Think of this as your contribution, this radioactive short-term flash of decay. Think of this as your contribution to this fantastic car crash that is you, that is me, that is us. I've tried to learn, I've tried to study these microscopic parts of you to try to make sense of you. But whether or not you ever leave it up, despite your destruction, despite this decay of yours, I have to keep reminding myself that when it comes to you, this is what you do. This happens all the time. So I pull the lash from my hands and I wave my hand in that line of traffic. Go ahead. Keep driving. This happens all the time. There's nothing to see here. This is a poem that I gave you the description. I might as well give everybody the description. I was in D.C. and we went to the Holocaust Memorial, and at one point, I'm with John, and he says to me, hey, there's a list of names of all the resistance fighters who died. And I just instinctively broke my neck. And I don't know anybody in the Netherlands or anything, but I mean, that's called silent. And I found 4 names. I had no idea who they were. And it just kind of freaked me out. And I thought, well, I'm supposed to be writing something for Halloween at this time. I am going to make up a story about how 4 resistance fighters died. And I will use their names. I mean, and it's entirely fiction. The only thing is, I saw these names are all people who actually did die in the resistance. So I came up with this story. But all this, no compunction. Some within the resistance during World War II knew of others assisting the Jews, the Gypsies, the homosexuals. But most kept everything secret for their safety. They had to. It was all they could do to stay alive. She waited quietly outside the Stalag so she could help British pilots capture their third Reich. But when they escaped at 6 a.m. under a blanket of the Nazi gunfire, they all fell, coloring the snowy fields of crimson red. Despite losing her life accused in his silence, she never knew her relatives, Johanna, Petronella, Marie, would all also have a similar fate and be killed at the hands of the Third Reich. Marie was a lowlander and had never got involved in politics, but she couldn't sit by and do nothing when her pharmacist, her daughter's teachers, her next-door neighbors were shipped to distant concentration camps. Marie stayed awake through the night on her last night alive, with a candle lit in her front window, waiting for the two men, Jacob and Hein, so she could conceal them behind a plaster-lined mock wall. Before they actually traveled to safety, she stared all night at the barren road near the train tracks and Forest Edge, and only saw two figures in the distance once daylight broke. So she left that candle burning, left her daughters, grabbed her coat, and ran out the front door to take them in. But when they were only 20 meters apart, she saw the dark truck coming toward them, littered with swastikas. So she turned across the train tracks and tried to get to the still booming rows of trees. Jacob and Hein followed. The SS didn't even get out of their truck, and they started shooting at them. The SS had no compunction for killing the Jews, or the homosexuals, or the resistance. When we saw Hein shot first, her only thought was that Hein is Hebrew for life. Before she and Jacob were both gunned down. The squad leader saw the male Jewish noses, could identify the strong Dutch female, and thought about what fun he could have had with her. He scanned the skyline for a possible home and signaled the men to go after spotting one house in the distance on the road. They violently knocked on the door after seeing the candle in the window. They beat again the door, and at the door before a frightened 16-year-old Johanna made sure in the dark that everyone was hidden, wondered where her mother was, and finally opened her front door. The three SS men stood there, each with greed in their eyes. "Wo ist dein Vater?" She told them her father died years ago. The younger sister, Petronella, walked toward her before he asked, "Wo ist deine Mutter?" She said she didn't know where her mother was. The three men walked in, and they told her this was a random search, and they asked if anyone else was at home. Saw the unpainted plaster-lined wall after Johanna said no. The leader walked over the wall, knocked, thought he heard a noise, and then asked if this room was smaller than before. And before Johanna could answer the last search, the squad leader stepped back, and the other two men pointed their Lugers at the unpainted wall adorned with a single oil painting. In an effort to somehow alert the behind-the-wall small trapped family, young Petronella said she wanted to save the painting. Then she walked toward painting on the wall when they opened fire and killed young Petronella where she stood. Johanna muffled her screams in shock and disbelief. "Warum du dies? Why did you do this?" was all she could ask. The squad leader walked to her, jerked her head back by her hair. "Sie was das Hässliche." She was the ugly one, he told her, before he took her to a bedroom to rape her, while the other two men stood guard and listened for noises from that fake wall before they took turns raping Johanna. When one of them would hear a noise in that unpainted wall, they fired one shot. They didn't know if it hit anyone. but the noise would stop. After they finished raping the Dutch girl repeatedly, the nearly unconscious Johanna smelled petrol. They poured everywhere in her home. They poured more on the unpainted wall before they left the house to set the flame. They stood outside and waited in case any vermin tried to run free. They all had their guns pointed. They were ready. As the flames of this little furnace died down, they lit their smokes on the dying embers and got in the truck. Driving away, the three were pleased. Proud they saved space on the best train to Brooklyn. And I created that, but I do know enough things about it to try to come up with something that's a realistic time story, I guess. So now I'm going to end up with something happy. This is something that I did in a show, and I'm going to go back to a sciencey thing, but not really. This is called Us Actually Touching. I heard a physicist explain that when two solid objects are pressed together, they never actually touch. I can't imagine it, but maybe because electrons repel, all objects remain one molecule apart. I wonder if this is why when I see you and when we embrace, I want to hold you tighter and tighter. Because I want to defy the laws of physics and feel that contact with you as long as I possibly can. Is this why when we embrace, I want my face at your neck so that I inhale you deeply and breathe you in? Because I want to experience you with all my senses. I want our molecules to intermingle. I want us to actually touch. Oh, thank you. Sure. You know, as I said, I didn't know if I was going to be here, so I grabbed a few, and I didn't know. And these are from a show I did in 2011. The show was called, well, I won't tell you what it's called, because I think that's the last word of this poem. This is a piece called Upstage Everyone Else. You wake up in the morning, clean yourself up, take the commute, figure out what you're supposed to do, go through all the motions, take your lunch break, feel dreary, keep up with the schedule, make it home, screw making dinner, there's got to be some leftovers in the fridge, then go to a bar or watch a movie or just sit at home with some beer and leave it at that before you do it again, tomorrow, and again, tomorrow, and again, tomorrow. That's what it always is, you know. We're on this cycle, we're on this racetrack. There's this goal that we've all got to keep going toward. Get married, get the house, churn out the kids, make a ton of money, buy the big car, wear the huge jewels, go to the fancy trips, upstage everyone else. It's like we're on this racetrack, like we're a donkey and someone is dangling this carrot in front of us to keep us moving. So this is what we do. Oh, we see the commercials on TV, we see what we have, and we become dissatisfied. And we see that carrot dangling in front of us, always just out of reach. So this is what we do. We stay in this cycle, and we trudge forward on the only track we know. I finally decided to look at this cycle, look at what I'm doing. And I saw the carrots, and the donkey was dead. And I thought, This whole show was filled with pieces that are like the odd. The show was called So I'm like, I can't tell you that because it's flash. One prepared for this one. This is a piece that I will close off with called On a High Horse Like This. I listened to a hunter from Africa say, all life is sacred. And he said that after separating a small, thin, non-venomous snake from around a large African hog-like bird's neck. Because, you see, the bird attacked snakes, but that snake couldn't eat the large bird once it had died, and that would have been a senseless death. All life is sacred, you say. So I couldn't help but think, as a hunter, do you pray for the sacred dead after you've killed it? I mean, I don't usually vocalize on a high horse like this. And I've had to explain myself to meat eaters. No, these aren't leather shoes I wear. I'm a vegetarian. Though I still have to feign a smile to commiserate with men eating slaughtered animal. Because, you see, I look like a fool for having beliefs. And people don't want to hear about a moral choice different from their own. I mean, we're Americans. If it's not human, or maybe a dog or a cat, eat it. It's that simple. But I married a hunter, a Marine, who served our country, and he told me that every time he killed an animal, a part of him felt a regretful twinge of pain when he killed his prey. The prey that he searched for with a weapon he used before anything got close enough to be an enemy. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm getting on my high horse again. It's convenient that people can get their kill from a grocery store without getting any blood on their hands. Anything to stop everyone from thinking about what they're doing. Because I've heard that killing something makes you feel something. And if thoughts